So, Nigeria's got this massive challenge on its hands. But at a recent summit, some of the top minds in the country got together and hammered out a potential solution. They've created what they're calling a blueprint to finally tackle the nation's housing crisis. And in this breakdown, we're going to get into exactly what that plan looks like. It really all comes down to this one single number. 20 million. Now, that's not just some abstract statistic. It's honestly one of the biggest hurdles Nigeria is facing right now. So what does it actually represent? Well, it means 20 million families don't have a proper home. 20 million dreams of having a safe, stable place to live are pretty much on hold. And this isn't just about concrete and bricks. It's about the very foundation of society. The summit really faced this head on, and they didn't just call it a problem. They called it an emergency. Right, so this isn't just another issue on a long list. It's a full-blown emergency. And the very first thing the summit did was to define the crisis in the clearest, most urgent terms possible. I want you to really pay attention to the wording here. When the summit chairman himself, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, calls it a national emergency, that's not just talk. That is a massive signal that the old ways of doing things have completely failed and that a totally new way of thinking is absolutely necessary. Okay, so if it's such an emergency, you've got to ask, right? Why haven't decades of different efforts managed to fix it? Well, the summit's answer was pretty blunt. The models we've been using all this time are just fundamentally broken. And at the very heart of that failure is a simple, hard truth. The traditional way of buying a home, well, it's like a broken bridge. The idea of saving up a huge down payment and then getting a standard mortgage is just not in the cards for the vast majority of Nigerians. The summit pointed to this as the single biggest bottleneck in the whole system. And this slide, wow, it just lays out exactly why that is. See, it's not just one problem, it's this whole tangled web of issues. You've got skyrocketing land and construction costs. You've got foreign exchange swings making materials more expensive by the day. And even if you could somehow afford the house, the mortgage system is weak and there's not enough good data to even get a loan. It's a total systemic failure. But look, pointing out the problem is the easy part. The real energy at the summit was focused on forging a new way forward, and that starts with the most important piece of the puzzle, the money. How in the world can we finance homes in a way that actually works for people? What's needed here is a complete paradigm shift. It's about flipping the whole system on its head, moving away from a model built for the wealthy and creating something designed specifically for low and middle-income families. These new approaches get rid of the need for huge upfront cash and instead create flexible, step-by-step ways to get on the property ladder. Let's take a look at a few. First up, we've got rent to own. Now, this is a real game changer. Think about it. It takes your monthly rent payment, which a lot of people just see as dead money, and turns it into an actual investment in your own future. Every single payment helps you build up equity, which makes owning a home a realistic goal, not some far-off fantasy. Then there's co-ownership. You can basically think of this as crowdfunding a house. Instead of one person having to shoulder the entire massive financial burden, a group of people can pool their money together to buy a property. All of a sudden, ownership becomes a team sport, and that makes it accessible to so many more people. Now, fractional ownership takes that same idea and pushes it a little further, usually with more of an investment focus. It lets you buy a small piece of a property, a fraction, which gives you a financial foothold in the real estate market without having to commit to buying a whole house. And finally, we've got REITs, which stands for Real Estate Investment Trusts. The easiest way to think about this is like buying stocks, but for property. They let anyone invest in a big portfolio of buildings, which then injects a ton of capital back into the market to actually fund the construction of all these new homes we need. So, okay, we've got these really innovative financial tools. But here's the thing the summit really hammered home. Money alone is not going to fix this. There's a second pillar to this solution that is just as important, and it's all about how people work together. This quote from ARC Fumi Ajiwale just says it all, doesn't it? The sheer scale of this problem, 20 million homes, is so huge that no single organization, not the government, not a private company, nobody can possibly solve it by themselves. And this isn't just about business strategy. It's about a deep, fundamental culture change. The summit called for an end to what they called institutional empires. Organizations working in their own little silos, just protecting their own turf. The only way forward is for everyone to get out of their castles and start working together on the one shared goal that matters, getting roofs over people's heads. So, how do you actually make that happen? Well, they proposed this simple but powerful framework called the 4Ps. And this isn't just a buzzword, it's a whole ecosystem. You have the public sector, the government, providing the policy and the land. You have the private sector, bringing the capital and efficiency. You have the people, through things like cooperatives representing the actual demand. And that final P, partnership, is the glue that holds the whole thing together, making sure everyone is pulling in the same direction. Okay, so what does this all boil down to in the end? The summit didn't just end with a bunch of good ideas, it actually produced a concrete set of resolutions. This is the real to-do list, the blueprint for turning all this talk into action. And here it is. The blueprint comes down to 5 critical actions. First, in finance, make these new models like rent-to-own and REITs the new standard. Second, policy. Finally review the old Land Use Act to cut through all that red tape. Third, partnership. Officially commit to and build up that 4Ps model. Fourth, design. Start building smarter and cheaper with things like micro units and modular construction. And last but not least, data. Stop guessing and start making decisions based on a real, solid information. And so, that leaves us with the big question, right? The one that really matters. The ideas are definitely innovative. The commitment seems to be there. But turning this detailed blueprint into 20 million actual physical homes, well, that's going to take a level of collaboration and execution we've never seen before. The plan is on the table. Now, the real work begins.